You are listening to Deep Dive Divas, episode 065, The Heartbreakers. Please follow us online and review the program using the links in this episode's show notes, you coward.
This is Deep Dive Divas. Each episode, Owen and myself listen to every blessed studio album by an artist of, I guess, our choosing, and share our findings with you. Did you know anything about the Heartbreakers prior to this?
No, not at all.
Did you also suspect that it somehow might be tied to Tom Petty?
Did know those Heartbreakers, but I've heard of Johnny Thunder before.
Thunders.
So sorry.
Let's nip that in the bud because I made that mistake a billion times during this.
But no, knew nothing about his time with the Heartbreakers or...
Well, the Heartbreakers were a 70s punk band from New York City. Howdy, y'all! Yeehaw! Rope the Bronco! Comprised of members of New York Dolls and Television. Those are bands. They had one album. This record is considered one of the first punk records ever made and has influenced countless artists and bands. So, John Anthony Genzale was born in Queens, New York, to a couple of Italians. By the time he was but 15 years old, he was playing in a band called The Reign, R-E-I-G-N. Parents really have a responsibility to see their children in bands with bad names and to tell them to stop that. Cut it out.
What was your worst band name?
The Rue Badleys.
It was bad.
The Boo Radleys were already taken, and that's also not a great band name.
Yeah.
How about you?
Never had a bad one.
That's nice.
Yeah. Sorry.
Can I say I love that for you?
Yeah, you could say that.
Following The Reign, little John Anthony Genzale had a band called Johnny and the Jaywalkers. And he assumed the name Johnny Volume at that time.
Oh.
All bad. Well, Johnny was a student of the bands forming in and traveling to New York City at this time. There's footage of him watching the Rolling Stones play Madison Square Garden in 1969 when he was just a widow 17-year-old boy.
But there's footage of him watching the
Rolling Stones, yes.
So it's just like someone filming.
Yeah, it was a documentary, kind of like a Talking Heads.
Stop making sense.
Stop making sense. But it's called Gimme Shelter. And
yeah.
And you can see Johnny Thunders, Johnny Volume at the time, watching the Rolling Stones with his girlfriend. He also worked in a leather shop on Bleecker Street in Greenwich Village, which is like hipster central now. It is in 1971 that Johnny starts going under the name Johnny Thunders. It's important to make that distinction because there was already an act called Johnny Thunder, singular, who was sort of a doo-wop singer.
Everybody's having a great time. All the gangs here and a dancing, yeah. And I'm a looping with the baby of mine. Come on now and here we go, loop, loop. Everybody loop. Here we go, loop, delight. Loop a loop delight. Here we go, loop, loop. Loop a loop a loop. Yeah. On a Saturday night.
I will say that's actually more my speed than the band we're covering today. I really like Loop de Loop.
I think with like doo-wop singers, a lot of the time it's like these guys or girls with great voices, but then they're kind of like stuck in just like loop-de-loop land and just like singing. Like I think if that was like just like maybe like 10 years later or something, that could be a great.
You could have sang about social
you could've-
issues
yes,
and stuff
exactly.
like that
instead of loop de loop and
it's music about having fun, and
Hey.
it's for the young teenagers. I don't know why we're spending so much time on Johnny Thunder, because he has nothing to do with this. Well, Johnny Thunders is one of the founders of a band called New York Dolls. I always thought it was the New York Dolls. It's not.
Trash won't pick it up. Take them lights away. Trash won't pick it up. Don't take your life away. Trash won't pick it up. Don't try to take my night away. And please don't you ask me if I love you. If you don't know what I'm doing, what you know is trash won't pick it up. Take them.
And that band was made up of Johnny Thunders, of course, on guitar, Billy Murcia, a Colombian drummer, David Johansen, a singer who played the Ghost of Christmas Past in the Bill Murray film Scrooged, and a guitarist named Rick Rivets, who was kicked out of the band really quickly and started bands such as The Brats and the Rick Rivets Band. He was replaced by a fellow named Sylvain. In 1972, the band, before they've recorded a single note on anything, they go on a tour of England. That's how this stuff used to work. And their New York Dolls have a glam sound. They're a glam band. And the nation of England is primed for that kind of music because acts like T-Rex and David Bowie had already been making that kind of music like a decade earlier.
yeah.
I guess at this point, like 5 years earlier. They're kind of a hit over there. People were stoked to hear this raw sort of, pretty fast, pretty raucous version of glam music coming over from New York. And just before the final show of that tour, Billy Murcia is at a party and he overdoses on sedative pills. A little semantics here. Just because you overdose on pills or any drug, it doesn't mean you actually inherently are going to die, but it means that it is going that way. Well, the idiots at the party freaked out when they saw him overdosing, and most of them ran away. But the few that remained filled a bathtub with water and plopped him in there. I genuinely don't think they were trying to murder him. I think that they thought the water would like rejuvenate him, like splashing cold water on someone's face. But as anyone who thought about that plan for more than 5 seconds would expect, Billy Murcia drowned. He was 21 years old. Pretty rough. He was promptly replaced with a Brooklyn native named Jerry Nolan on drums. And Jerry is going to be a key figure in this story. It was with this lineup that New York Dolls was signed to Mercury Records, which really makes it tragic about Billy Murcia because like they very shortly after his death blow up and like he would have been a part of that. It was with this lineup that they also put out 2 records, 1973's New York Dolls and 1974's Too Much Too Soon. And it was around this time that there was a very cool music scene blossoming in New York City. Many bands play at a club called CBGB's in the East Village, which we've talked about before on the show. And bands that would play there included acts that had just recently formed within a year of this time, such as the Talking Heads, the Ramones, Patti Smith, and Blondie, all formed within a year of 1975. There was another band that formed concurrently with the New York Dolls. I'm sorry, with New York Dolls. And they were
Come
called...
on, man. Don't spread misinformation like that.
They were called Television.
I remember how the darkness doubled. I recall lightning struck itself. I was listening to
Well, this band was a creation of teenage friends Tom Verlaine, who was from New Jersey, and Richard Hell, who was from Kentucky. But they met, I did not know this, at a private school in Hockessin, Delaware. And they would find each other again years later in New York City, where they started their band. it was purported that they actually ran away from this private school. And as others joined the band, there was a wedge driven between Richard Hell and Tom Verlaine. They were initially the principal songwriters of the band, and Hell songs, eventually, as more people came in and had more influence in the band, they start pushing Richard Hell songs off to the side more and more. Richard Hell was not really interested in learning his instrument, which was the bass, or like taking a studious approach of writing music. He just wanted to be loud and fast and in your face. And Tom Verlaine and the other members of the band kind of had a more sort of artistic approach, and they wanted to be a little more constructive than that. So they just sort of banished Richard Hell songs to the back burner. And eventually he says, fine, you got to choose. Either I'm going to sing like all the time and we're going to play my songs, or I quit. And the band walks out on him. So he's like, okay, I guess I'm out of the band. So he quits. He actually is replaced briefly on bass guitar by Patti Smith's husband, Fred Smith.
Whoa.
Yes. Deep Dive Divas alumnus, let's shift gears back to New York Dolls. Deep Dive Divas alumnus and walking embodiment of the term bad news, Malcolm McLaren, who you might remember from our Sex Pistols episode.
Oh, right.
Worked with New York Dolls before there was a Sex Pistols. Johnny Thunders and Jerry Nolan hate Malcolm McLaren. They hate all of the decisions he's making. They hate how he's having them dress. They just do not like this guy. And together, in 1975, Johnny Thunders and Jerry Nolan quit the band, explicitly citing Malcolm McLaren as the reason that they quit. That all happened the same week that everything that I just mentioned with Richard Hell happened in television. So within 1 week, some of the key founding members of these two bands quit their bands in the same city. So it doesn't really take a lot to imagine that something's going to come of that. The New York Dolls, this is bad.
Come on, man.
New York Dolls continue playing for about another year before they also break up. Malcolm McLaren, now having ruined that band, then goes back home to destroy the Sex Pistols. Well, now this island of misfit toys basically materializes in the Heartbreakers. You have Richard Hell joining up, Johnny Thunders, Jerry Nolan, of course, and they get a fellow named Walter Lurr to play guitar with them as well. He was in a smaller band called the Demons, also a glam band. Now, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers have nothing to do with this version of the Heartbreakers. It's just the same name, although this version in New York City were around for about a year before Florida's Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. The Heartbreakers become really popular in the underground scene of New York, but record labels didn't want to work with them because they knew that the band had gotten hooked on heroin. You can listen back to our Aerosmith episode to learn about why that's a bad idea to work with bands that are on that drug.
You could just listen to Aerosmith.
You could just, yes, exactly. So almost immediately, trouble arises between Johnny Thunders and Richard Hell. Richard Hell wanting more and more control over the band. And Richard Hell quits and then forms a new band called Richard Hell and the Voidoids, which was really inconsiderate. It's a bad name, which was really inconsiderate of him because I did all that retroactive research on television and Richard Hell and all that stuff to include in the story, but he's only in the band for like 5 seconds. Instead, a guy named Billy Rath, R-A-T-H, takes over. And the band quickly adopted a kind of street tough New Yorker, hey, I'm walking here sort of look to put some space between them and the whole like glam scene. And that is why this is very oftentimes cited as one of the first punk bands, one of the first punk albums, because it really is a departure from that. Although I will say, Johnny Thunders hated the term punk and he did not consider himself a punk. He did not consider their music punk or anything like that. But that's the thing about labels. You don't really get to choose them for yourself. In 1976, the band, now with a stable lineup, or stable, as stable as this band's going to see it, goes across the pond to the UK to join the Anarchy Tour. We did talk about this exact tour back on our Sex Pistols episode, because this was a tour that included the very new bands, Sex Pistols, also know the in their name, The Clash, and The Damned. Damn. So it's 3 of the biggest punk bands that ever existed, all British, and the Heartbreakers. The British public loved the Heartbreakers because This is something that we've covered like extensively on the Beatles episode and various other times we talk about the British public. They love American blues music. It's a very big deal over there, and that might be kind of a shock to some of our American listeners, but having been to the UK several times now, it's everywhere. Blues music is everywhere. The thing is, as we covered on the Sex Pistols episode, they didn't actually get to play a lot of shows on the Anarchy tour because the police shut down most of the shows before they even started, before any of the bands even played a note. So the few that the Heartbreakers did get to play were very well received. People loved it. They loved the fast speed of their music. They loved how harsh and brash they were, and they loved the incorporation of blues music. And word of mouth is just so funny in that way because there weren't really any recordings of the band at that time. So it was just like people were like, oh, you got to check out this new band. You got to check out this new band. It just generated a hype that way, even though a lot of people had no idea what they even really sounded like. And all across the Anarchy tour, both the shows they did get to play and the shows they didn't get to play, they were frequently sold out. Well, because of all this hype in England, they end up getting signed to a British label called Track Records, who are probably most famous for signing Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty wild. Yeah, but the Brits love Jimi Hendrix. They adopted him way before the Americans did. And they were given a sizable advance to start working on their first record. So an advance, if you're not familiar, is basically like most of the money you're going to get paid for the record. And what we see time and time again is when a band of drug users receive an advance, what do we expect they're going to use that money on?
Drugs.
Yes. So that's basically what they squander their advance on. They get a British producer named Speedy Cleen, Kleen, who is the drummer of Thunderclap Newman and the writer of their hit song, Something in the Air.
And you know that it's right. We have got to get it together. We have got to get it together now.
Have you ever heard the story how bands would use like on their like checks writing like if they got advances for records and use it on drugs, they would write like instead of writing using like for the record label to show like what they spent their money on, they would write like California fade out guy, like someone to do like the
faders.
a fader, like a clean like fade out on like every song, and it would be like $10,000 on the fade out guy.
So their producer, Speedy Cleen, is also a drug addict at this time. So as you can imagine, not a lot of work gets done. They do make a few efforts at trying to record things and edit and mix it, but they are always unsatisfied with the album. They think it sounds really small and like chintzy because this was a band that was known for being super loud and raucous and abrasive and just like having this huge sound, and that did not come across on the record, according to the band. So while recording's going very poorly, they're still playing live and they're living in England. They do that for the entire year of 1977. And they are playing sold out shows all across the country in order to afford to buy drugs. So that they're basically just musicians to afford their drug habit. And the record label starts to get pretty impatient with them because they'd spent a year basically not making an album. And they eventually give the band an ultimatum. They say, we want the band out for the holidays so that we can sell your music for Christmas. And the band says, okay. And they turn in their record, which is entitled LAMF. Do you know what that stands for?
Nope.
Like a, cover your ears, motherfucker. Again, this is their holiday album.
Right. That's such like a concept that is like so funny to think about now with like streaming and how like record sales don't really like accumulate like
Yeah.
like actually trying like to sell it, like putting it out like towards a holiday as like a tactic to like physically sell it is.
Do you know when the majority of albums come out now?
I'll guess like July.
January. Do you know why? More time for streaming numbers.
For that.
That's all it is. Yep. It gives you more time. Jerry Nolan hates how this album sounds so much. He says, if we put this album out, I'm quitting the band. And the label puts the album out and he quits the band. So they don't have a drummer now. Just to give you some context of where everything's out, this album comes out October 3rd, 1977. October 28th, just a few weeks later, Nevermind the Bollocks by Sex Pistols comes out. So it's a real moment in the air. A lot of people have tried to, like, everyone pits everyone against each other anytime there's, like, similar bands. Johnny Thunder said in an interview later that he'd never believed in competition with music. He said it's not competitive, and he said he loved the Sex Pistols. So a lot of people accuse them of ripping off New York Dolls and the Heartbreakers, but he's like, nah, it's all fair game. It's all good. Music's music.
Yeah.
The Heartbreakers get the Sex Pistols' Paul Cook to play drums with them, because they were also in shambles by this time. And instead, they were actually able to hire Jerry Nolan back to finish the fall tour that they started with Paul Cook. And then Jerry Nolan quits again, this time to start a band called The Idols. Not Idols. IDOLS.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about LAMF.
I like this better than the Sex Pistols.
Okay. Agreed. Yeah. Bar's also low, as I recall, between the two of us. I don't think either of us really loved Nevermind the Bollocks.
Yeah. It was good.
This is the hard-hitting commentary people come to the show
Yeah.
for. We're like 3 hours in.
They wanna
and
know what's
They want to
good.
know, what does Owen think about this album? And you hit them with, it's good.
Well, that's the perfect way to describe it. I think that it's a very standard, like, just punk album. The exact album you sent me was LMAF, the Found 77 Masters, from the Heartbreaker, attributed to the Heartbreakers on Spotify. And then there's Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers,
Yes.
which has LMAF, the Lost 77 Masters. And then there was, like, all these, like, other versions.
So because the band was unhappy with the album, it has been remixed like 20 times.
Okay.
So there's a million different versions of what is basically the same album. To me, they don't really sound all that different.
They have a song called Pirate Love that, going into it, I was really, I thought would be my yuck icky, because I thought it would actually have to do with pirates.
I was so excited for Pirate Love.
But the way the guitars and vocals are produced on the song sounds a lot like, almost kind of like the White Stripes, like garage bands from like the 2000s. Like, it's, the vocals are very crushed and like distorted, and the like guitars are panned, and they're just like also sorted into oblivion. Can't Keep My Eyes on You is my yuck icky.
Oh, really?
Jerry Nolan sings on this.
Can't keep my eyes on you. 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 The way you look at me, the way I look at you, I know you go for me, just like I go for you. Can't keep my eyes on you.
It was repetitive and boring, but I also just really didn't like his voice. Like, it was very kind of whiny and off-putting to me. It's not enough as my Yummy Yummy. So
Okay.
I think it's just a nicely written song, and I found it to be like the most compelling song, that like the most grabbing. It grabbed me.
Sure. Like, what's something that grabs someone?
Like a claw
In a machine.
Yeah.
And you're a little toy.
You can give me this. You can give me that. You can give me this. You can give me that. It's not enough. Money so great, so casually seen. It don't bother me.
I know I ragged on your description of this album as being good, but I do think for the 2026 listener, if you put this on, I don't think it's going to blow your mind. I think it sounds like pretty middle of the road rock music, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think that, most people will be like, yeah, it's fine. You know, I am on the record not loving the 12-bar blues, which they do an awful lot across this record. And those songs, as you had said, also bored me. This sound has also been copied and ripped off so many times that I'm trying to give it the benefit of the doubt of being like, whoa, this was really revolutionary and people never really heard anything like this. For me, it's just kind of boring. Some of the less formulaic work on the album appeals to me, and I think that the gang vocals sound really good. I think they kind of anticipate a lot of gang vocals you're going to hear in rock music, especially in like 2000s, like emo music and math rock and stuff, like those kind of posse vocals. I think they sound similar to that. And I love the sound. It sounds really big. And I enjoyed this also more than Nevermind the Bollocks, because I am listening to these albums as a 2026 listener who's heard this copied and recopied a million times. I think the intended audience for the Heartbreakers was probably someone pretty drunk in a bar on a Friday night and just like wanted to forget the world for a little while. Yeah. So I myself got drunk and listened to this record, and I recorded my feedback on it. I think this was the second time that I had listened to it. Okay. And I have not listened to this since. This is completely unedited, and this is what drunk me thought of this album.
It's me. I'm listening to Heartbreakers. I can tell you exactly what I had. One second. I had 2 shots of Jose Cuervo Especial made with blue agave gold tequila mixed with some lemon lime soda. And I'm enjoying it a lot more. I mean, not the drink. I enjoyed that every time. I'm enjoying the album much more this time around. And I just feel more connected with maybe a sort of more carnal and primitive aspect that this music is bringing out. I'd really like to lay down for a nap.
So yeah, I think setting does matter in music, and I think but if you're not a drinker, I think perhaps driving fast in a car would probably give you a similar sort of rush. And I think
just
that
throw this album on, close your eyes behind the steering wheel, and just press go.
Yes, press the go
press
pedal.
The go pedal. Just let loose. Just let Johnny Thunders
guide your way.
Take the wheel.
But so again, I don't think I'm really the intended audience for this music. But I think if you were at a party and you threw this on in the background, I think it would not be offensive to anyone. And maybe a couple people would get really amped up and enjoy it. This album is 12 tracks long. I gave it a 4 out of 10.
I would give it a 5.
Okay. You liked about half of it?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. My Yummy Yummy track has running bass lines and, a pretty, I think, a very big sound. It kind of reminds me of The Clash's earlier work, and it is called One Track Mind. It also has the lines, I got tracks on my arms, referring to heroin use, tracks on my face, there's tracks on the walls and all over the place.
Beautiful.
Each episode, we like to highlight the up-and-coming work of a discography developing diva. Today, that is Floating. Floating is a band from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I have absolutely been loving their album, which is entitled La Di Da. It just came out a couple of weeks ago. The singer of the group, Mary, wrote the song that I'm going to be playing for you. And Mary said that she, quote, wrote it from a place where she felt trapped in an unhealthy cycle with a character for whom she was justifying bad behavior by optimistically and perhaps naively seeing the humanity behind the abuse. She also said that she was intentional about the happy, light feel to the music, which juxtaposes the darker text of the lyrics. It represents the way we humans can sometimes cope with trauma by masking the truth to the outside world. We also do that in the pursuit of precious jewelry that we chase to the ends of the earth. Without further ado, it is now time to fade into you with Floating and their track, Smeagol.
You said I sound like a guitar string, and that's supposed to mean a nice thing. You speak on a call, problems are solved. You distorted sense of romance. Let me down as burdens I know. Just because I'm
Baby, you can hear more from Floating, and you should. Listen to a playlist of our favorite The Heartbreaker songs, visit our shop and social media pages, contact us and view our citations, and so much more by using the links in this episode's show notes.
The album's out. It's October. It's Halloween. Ooh. And this is also the year that Johnny Thunders marries Julie Jordan, Jourden.
Oh.
They will have 3 sons together. But Johnny Thunders, scamp he is, also has a daughter named Jamie with one Suzanne Blomqvist. And we're back.
Speaking of Blunkfist, this month's movie was The Green Mile.
The Green Mile. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Toy to toy to toy.
Tom Hanks.
Ah, yes, Tom Hanks. There you are, out in the field,
It's
counting
the
the
boy from
clover and
Big.
barley.
I was gonna just watch Big and just like talk about Big,
But that would be dishonest.
but that would be dishonest. So
Funny,
I watched,
though.
It would be funny.
You're a funny little guy.
funny little lad. No, I just watched The Green Mile. Notes on it: good amount of piss in this movie.
Yeah. I defy you to find a movie where piss and the electric chair factor in more.
Yeah, it happens more than twice. The main character, Tom Hanks's Paul, has an illness that makes it kind of hard to pee, and
It happens.
it happens, man.
Get your prostate checked, gentlemen.
And a character named Percy also pisses himself after
Percy. Percy Jackson.
never
Lightning Thief.
never watched it.
Oh.
Or no, I watched it, never read it.
Okay. Yeah. It's a sad movie.
It is a sad.
Movie. You gotta wet those sponges before you execute someone.
I had no idea about like the entire like John like healing about like superpowers.
Yeah,
Almost like
yeah.
I just thought this was a movie. I knew it was about like death row. Knew
Not
nothing-
records.
Yeah, not records. Knew nothing about any of that. So that was pretty shocking. And yeah, it was a sad little movie. But it was good.
It really has nothing to do with the Irish or St. Patrick's
No,
Day.
no.
It has green in the title. That's why
It does have
shows
green
it.
in the title.
Yeah, it's sad. It's a sad movie.
Mr. Jingles.
The mouse.
Mouse.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to watch this movie. Do you know who it's based on? A book. Do you know who wrote the book?
Roald Dahl.
No, Stephen King.
Oh.
Yes. The sick and twisted horror man himself.
I watched Gerald's Game.
What's that?
It's like a movie based on a Stephen King story recently. It's pretty good.
Join us in April as we watch Cheech and Chong's animated movie. In 1978, a few members end up going back to New York City to try to find a permanent drummer. Remember, they borrowed the Sex Pistols drummer for like 5 minutes, and then Jerry Nolan came back, and then he quit again. And while they are away on this mission, their record label, Track Records, declares bankruptcy. And after all of this, and fed up with the drama and discouraged, the band breaks up. Johnny Thunders stays in the UK to work on his first solo record entitled So Alone. Good name for a solo record, which actually has some members of the Heartbreakers on it. It was around this time that
It's like
the band...
Beatles records.
Yeah. Not entirely unlike it. They're just like the Beatles. It was around this time that the band temporarily gets back together to play a bunch of, quote, farewell shows to get money for drugs. Basically, anytime they ran out of money, they're like, let's just play more shows, and that'll put more money in our pockets to put more drugs in our veins. And this included a show at the famous Max's Kansas City, which famously and confusingly is in New York City. The booker for that club saw that the band was imploding on itself and was going to be done or dead very soon. So he has the foresight to have their concert on September 16th, 1978, recorded as a live album. The resulting Live at Max's Kansas City 79, which was not recorded in 1979, is considered one of the all-time great live albums by people who care about live rock and roll albums. And people feel that this is a better encapsulation of the band's sound than the record was. So if you want to hear what the Heartbreakers really sounded like, listen to Live at Max's Kansas City 79, which again was recorded in 1978.
You broke my heart, 'cause I couldn't dance. You didn't even want me around. But now I'm back, so that you know I can really shut them down. Oh, do you love me? 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 Now that I get down. Watch me now. Hey, work it out, baby.
Well, in 1979, since we're clearly so enthusiastic about talking about that year, the band with the quartet that recorded their record, including Jerry Nolan, realized how much money they could make from just playing these same songs whenever they ran out of money. And that's exactly what they did sporadically throughout the 80s. They continue this trend of we run out of money, we get back together, we play some shows, and that's it. They also all are kind of working on solo projects and bands throughout the decade. The band's final show was played on November 30th, 1990, just after Thanksgiving. It is hard to say exactly what happened on April 23rd, 1991. Let's go through what we do know. We know that Johnny Thunders was 38 years old on this day, and that he was in New Orleans, Louisiana, staying at a hotel called the Inn on St. Peter. And we know that he was now dead as a consequence of drugs in some fashion. However, it is not necessarily as clear-cut as the description that I just gave you might lead you to believe. Did you notice I'm saying words very strange this episode? I think it's because I've been watching so much Olympics and hearing all of these people speaking with European and Canadian accents.
I think you're still drunk from
Those two shots of Jose Cuervo haven't worn off in like 48 hours. Didi Ramon, a member of the band The Ramones, and co-writer of the song Chinese Rocks, which appears on this record, wrote that Johnny Thunders solo rhythm guitarist for his solo work when Stevie Klassen called him on the morning of April 23rd, 1991, and said, quote, Klassen told me that Johnny had gotten mixed up with some bastards who ripped him off for his methadone supply. They had given him LSD and then murdered him. He had gotten a pretty large supply of methadone in England so he could travel and stay away from those creeps, the drug dealers. If you are not familiar with what methadone is, I actually should have explained this earlier in the show. When Track Records was upset with the Heartbreakers for like not taking the recording seriously, they tried to give them methadone, which is still a drug, but it is a drug that has much less pronounced withdrawal symptoms. And the idea is you take methadone instead of other drugs, and it kind of weans you off of it, sort of like using a nicotine patch or something of that sort. Right. And it has a lot of documented success with many people to get them clean and off of drugs. So Johnny Thunders, because he was primarily operating in England because the Brits loved him so much, he was able to get a lot of this methadone for basically free because they have socialized healthcare in England, something that all countries should have. And he rolled into New Orleans with a ton of methadone, and the supposition here is that he was murdered for his stash of methadone. This conflicts with the coroner's report, which said he died of an overdose of cocaine and methadone. However, it has been argued that the amount documented by the coroner's report of those drugs in his body would not have been fatal. According to Thunders' sister, there was evidence of untreated leukemia as well in Johnny Thunders, which many fans say jibe with how he looked in his last year of life. He was very gaunt and frail, and he was always skinny, but he was like skin and bones at this point. The family attempted to get the police of New Orleans to investigate the matter further because of all these discrepancies. And Johnny Thunders' sister said, quote, they seemed to think this was just another junkie who had wandered into town and died. They simply weren't interested, end quote. The surviving members of the band held a memorial concert that would benefit the Thunders family, and they played the Heartbreakers songs. The following year, in 1992, Jerry Nolan ends up in a hospital for meningitis and pneumonia after years of living with HIV. He had a stroke while he was in the hospital and also died. So that leaves 2 members of the band. You have Billy Rath, the bassist, and Walter Lurr, the guitarist. Billy Rath left music altogether after the breakup of the Heartbreakers. He also goes into rehab, and he gets a degree in psychology and a qualification in theology, and he works as a substance abuse counselor.
That's cool.
Until he passed away on August 16th of 2014. He was 66 years old. In the wake of the Heartbreakers' demise, Walter Lurr, the guitarist, went on to become a stockbroker on Wall Street. He continued playing in a band similar in style to the Heartbreakers called the Waldos. Pretty bad.
Yeah.
He died of liver and lung cancer complications in 2020 at the start of the pandemic at age 71. At the time of recording, Richard Hell is 76 years old, and he has basically pivoted from music to being a writer. He writes novels and works of nonfiction. He has also appeared in a variety of low-budget films. There I go again. Like Geek Maggot Bingo.
Sounds like a Tuesday night.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
right. As of January 2020, he has been dating the author Catherine Fall. She's a novelist and writer of a highly lauded book called Young God. And that is the story of the Heartbreakers. Any closing remarks?
Don't you go breaking my heart.
I wouldn't. I couldn't if I tried. Nobody knows it. Nobody knows
Maybe she
it.
couldn't break his heart because he's homosexual.
Johnny Thunders?
No, Elton John.
He is?